Welcome everyone to the Threshold Stories channel. I'm Alina, and this is a space where stories of mystery and magic experienced by real people are conveyed from me to you. Today we have 3 great stories for you that cover liminal beings, fairies, and the last story is actually a story directly from my family that I'm going to tell to you. Stories are collected from all over the world. I keep everything in my handy dandy journal here, and I will be reading to you and giving you a little bit of visual with photos and some art throughout the video. All right, without further ado, let's get started. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. The first story is reported from London, England. A male experiencer submitted a survey to the fairy census about his incredible sighting when he was a child. I shared the back bedroom with my grandfather when I was young. His bed was in the center of the room, and my bed was against the outside wall, offering me a view of the sky in the gap between the curtain and the window. I hadn't been asleep, and grandfather was in his bed. The sky was a deep blue, turning darker with dusk, completely cloudless except for a tiny, round cloud in the far distance and coming from the north. Yes, I said coming, for it was getting bigger as it was heading directly towards me. What's more, I could see another such cloud far behind it, and yet another behind that. A string of small, round clouds heading towards me spread out in line. As they came closer, I could see they were being ridden as one rides a horse by men of around 14 inches tall with black hair and full black beards, wearing painted conical metal helmets. In their left hands, they carried round shields, and in their right, they each held a trident. By now, the first one had reached the top of my window, which was open, and he pushed against the gap as if trying to gain entry. This was enough for me. Against the inner bedroom wall was a single gentleman's wardrobe. I saw that this was now draped in a patterned material, and the 4 riders were stationed on each top corner, standing to attention behind the pelments as if on guard. Then the wardrobe door opened to reveal a fairy girl of around 3 feet in height with long, straight black hair, pale white skin, wearing a garment of pure white light. She was staring directly at me with an expressionless face. As if all of this wasn't enough, suddenly, what I have always described as a cobweb of energy appeared in the far corner of the room, and the fairy with her escorts disappeared. I described the apparition as a cobweb of energy due to its round shape and the position it occupied in the corner between the walls and the ceiling. It was comprised of circular bands of multicolored light that could be seen when it was dark but didn't emit light. It looked rather like a special effect from Star Trek. This occurred before such was filmed. When I awoke the following morning, it was still there. When I came home from school and was sent to my room, it was still there. Day and night for 2 weeks it remained. My mother can still remember me pointing to what appeared to her to be an empty space and asking, "What's that?" She, of course, could see nothing and dismissed it with the closed mind of adults by telling me how she had seen things when she had been delirious with pneumonia. But I wasn't sick. They looked like fairies. I have read books about them in later life and consider I fulfilled some of their requirements to be taken, though I considered none of this at that point as I was only 5 years old. I was unbaptized. I was unwanted. This occurred shortly before my parents put me in a children's home. I do consider the cobweb of energy to be an angel sent to protect me from that fae, which is why it remained for a couple of weeks afterwards and why it didn't manifest into a human form. I have 2 opinions on fairies. One is the Christian opinion that they are fallen angels intending to deceive, now taking on the form of aliens. The other opinion is that God made other lesser spirit beings to tend to nature but that they were not supposed to interact with us. The second report is from Renfrewshire, Scotland, from a man who would like to stay anonymous regarding his experience when he was a small child. Certainly the first happened before I can remember it, about 2 or 3 years old, when my mom was sitting with me in bed. Here's what I put on a forum about it previously, plus my mom's actual recollection as detailed as she can remember it. This was about 34 years ago. I've never seen a ghost apart from when I was about 2, and according to my mom, who was tucking me into bed, the cat freaked out and bolted under the dresser while arching its back and hissing. I then piped up, "Mommy, Mommy, who's the cowboy man with his guns?" pointing across the room. My mom turned and saw nothing, and the hairs on the back of her neck stood up and she got a total chill. I have no memory of this whatsoever, unfortunately, but it definitely happened, as Mom was always fond of telling it because it was so unreal. Here's her recollection. My mom: "You were sitting up in bed. I was sitting back with you. I was fully dressed. You'd had a cough for a couple of nights and it tired you out. I think it was broad daylight. Cat 1 was asleep on the bottom of the bed. She lifted her head and looked towards the dresser table, to the left. You were sitting up and you said, 'Oh, look, Mommy, look at that man over there. He's dressed like a cowboy, and he's got real bullets in his gun.' I looked where you were looking. Cat 1 got off the bed, warily, like she didn't like what she saw. She went out to the bedroom door. I saw Cat 2 coming nonchalantly in the bedroom door. She looked at us, looked towards the dresser table, stopped like she got a fright, and turned and went straight back out the door again. When I said to you that I couldn't see anybody, you said, 'Oh, yes, you can.' I remember you just started saying that. I wasn't kidding. I couldn't see anything. You, Cat 1 and Cat 2 obviously could see him. Afterwards, I kept wondering who it could have been. Maybe one of your grandfathers wanting to play with you and cheer you up, is what I thought at the time. Me. As to the early encounter, I've emailed my mom to ask her to recall everything she can about the incident so I can record it. Since I was about 2 or 3, I don't remember it, but Mom always told me the story. This puzzle has been with me my whole life, and I'm now finally headway with it. Cheers, everyone. What are fairies? A large group of beings under one umbrella, the original inhabitants of our planet. Well, on to my final story for today. My final story is actually about my son, who had 2 incredible encounters here in Central Maryland. The first encounter, as he explains it, and I am discussing this or letting you guys know about this story through recollection only. I did not write this down, but it's stuck in my head. The first encounter was when him and his friend were driving down a windy country road. Now, to give you a description of this area of Maryland, and really the whole Northeast, it is incredibly wooded with beautiful woods filled with birch trees and cedars and oaks. There's a lot of rivers and rivulets and lakes that are spotted through this landscape and countryside. And there are a lot of windy roads that are dark, that are not very well lit. We also have an Amtrak rail that runs through where we live. So my son and his friend were driving. The friend was the driver, my son was in the passenger seat. They were driving down a windy country road, and this road is about a couple of miles stretch. It takes about maybe 15 minutes to get through the whole road to the other side of town. They were driving, listening to music really loud, of course, as teenagers often do. And along this country road, if you are going south, the Amtrak rail is to your right. So they were going south to the other side of town. The Amtrak rail was to their right. And it was a dark night. The moon was out, so it was a bit lit. And that road does not have any lights along it, so no street lamps to light it. There are some houses sprinkled on this road throughout the road, but there's few and far between. A lot of the houses are actually tucked further into the woods. So they were driving and a fog did roll in, or was actually kind of sitting maybe about halfway through. Now along this area there is a marsh, so it's wooded, but it's a marsh as well. So the wetlands, we do have like a protected wetlands area around where we live. So a fog bank was kind of just sitting there on the road and through the woods. And they were driving, and there was a part where you kind of have to slow down because the road was getting a little too windy. So they slowed down, they hit a curve, and as they were driving along this curve, they saw what they described as two long, black, stick, wooden-looking legs that crossed the road from one side to the other. From one side where the Amtrak track was to the other where the woods were. Now, when they said legs, the only thing they could see was legs, because it looked like the rest of this being, or whoever the legs belonged to, was so tall that they couldn't see the rest. It crossed the road in 2 strides, and it happened slowly enough for them to actually see these legs. They described them as long, dark or black, wooden-looking legs. They were sticks. They weren't human legs. They were like either sticks or like a part of a tree. So they couldn't make out specifically what kind of sticks, but they looked very thin and stick-like. They slowed down to watch this thing cross the road, and cars behind them, of course, did as well, slowed down. Now, we don't know if the cars behind them saw anything, but they saw. My son turned to my friend, "Did you see that?" The friend said, "Absolutely, I saw that. Oh my God, what was it?" Of course, they start freaking out. They drive on. My son comes home and tells this story. We tried to look it up to see what type of, is there a forest spirit that is known to be around these areas? Now, of course, there are a lot of Native American, these lands are Native American lands. There are many different tribes that have been sprinkled throughout the Northeast, but I didn't find anything specific in Native American lore or cosmology about this type of spirit being in the woods. I did find 1 or 2 stories from more modern accounts that have seen such beings where Native elders, like grandmothers, would say that's the guardian of the woods, right? Don't go into the woods at night. But those are more modern accounts. I didn't see anything in actual Native American lore from these parts. Granted, a lot of the Native American lore from these parts has not been recorded, not been kept well, and eventually with the introduction of Christianity into these areas, it became more of a mixed cosmology with angels and kind of that biblical style cosmology or biblical style understanding of the spirit world. So, it was an amazing encounter. And then a year later, which was actually several months ago, my son was driving on his own down that same road and towards the same direction, south. The Amtrak track was on his right, and there was a car in front of him, and the car in front of him pulled over abruptly. And mind you, this road does not have shoulders. So he pulled over almost into a little bit of like a hill embankment that you can pull off into, but there's not a lot of space. So you almost have to like drive up into it to get off the road. And my son kind of slowed down to see what was going on. And my son looked at the Amtrak rail that you could see from that vantage point. And there was that stick being, I don't want to call it a stick figure, but it was this stick being, my son said, kind of like an Ent from Lord of the Rings, but much skinnier, standing over the tracks. Now, my son was alone driving, and he said the car in front of him pulled off, and the guy got out of his car on the phone, pointing to the tracks. So both of them were seeing this. My son said it was probably 15 to 20 feet tall, standing on the tracks. And then it disappeared. I clarified, I said, did it walk away? And my son said, no, it just disappeared. My son kept driving and he saw the man in his rear view continue to stay on the phone. He looked either very excited, scared, freaked out, but he was waving his arms on the phone, got back in his car and got back on the road. So this time it was my son and an actual stranger that saw this being. This is a 2 encounter, so obviously there is some kind of spirit living in these woods that is an Ent-like being. And when I say spirit, I'm using kind of general terminology, but he's some kind of protector of the forest, and he is there. So if any of you listeners have heard about these types of beings, Ent-like beings, especially in the Northeast region, but wherever you are, if you've heard it from friends or read it somewhere, please let me know. We'd love to know a little bit more about what my son saw. Well, that wraps up the episode for today. Thank you so much for being here, listening to these fascinating true encounters with what lies just beyond our senses. I hope these stories stirred something in you. If you have a story you'd like to share with me, shoot me a message. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and remember to step outside and listen. You never know what awaits. Until next time, everyone.